Welcome to the Second Syndicate, where we fight for the second. We're here tonight for our episode with Nephi Cole, who is the Director of Government Relations and State Affairs for the NSSF. I'm joined tonight with my co-host, Alicia Garcia, aka the Boomstick Babe.
Hi, everybody.
Glad to have you guys here tonight. Nephi, let's just get right into it.
Hey, thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. Looks like you guys are doing some great things. I love seeing you grow. I love hearing about it, and I hear you guys are crushing it. So well done.
It's
Thank
so
you,
nice
Nephi.
to see you, my
We're
friend.
glad to have you, brother.
So
Well,
I
thank
met
you for having
Nephi a couple years ago down at the Colorado State Capitol because I was so sick and tired of gun control, and Nephi was a consistent face fighting for gun rights. And of course, anybody who's on our team, we have to know each other. So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, every time we're down at the Capitol, we always see Nephi. He's always there. I think he has a secret hidden room somewhere at the Denver Capitol.
Yeah, I wish I did. That'd make it a lot easier to sleep and eat at the Capitol. You know, we are. It seems like whenever we're there, it's always firefighting. There's some massive thing, and a credit to Colorado. I think it's something that's unique. Is it's not a politically friendly state for the Second Amendment, but yet when these bills come up consistently, everybody packs the place. And so I think that your local organizations deserve a huge amount of credit for that. A lot of people don't know this about NSSF, but the National Shooting Sports Foundation, NSSF, we don't have that many members because NSSF the National Shooting Sports Foundation isn't something for people, it's for companies.
Yes.
And so our members are the 10,000 manufacturers, retailers, distributors of firearms, optics, ammunition. So it's companies like Vortex and Leupold and Aimpoint and Beretta and Glock and mom and pop gun shops or Shields and Cabela's.
Spartan Defense.
Well, thank you very much for being members of NSSF. And so we can't turn out that many people. If we looked at every FFL in Colorado and we said we need to get everybody to the Capitol, we're pulling from like 1,000.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're going to fight some of these bills, it pays to have boots on the ground, and that's where entities like RMGO, like NRA, like all of the others that have those members, that's where it's really important for them to put out those grassroots alerts and get those people there in person because it makes a difference.
So speaking of grassroots, I just want to remind everybody out there that the Second Syndicate is a 501c4 nonprofit. So every donation, merch order, super chat, it goes directly into protecting and preserving the Second Amendment here in Colorado and across the country. So you're not just supporting our show, you're fueling the movement, you're keeping us here on the fight, in the fight with people like Nephi. So right now we're live on YouTube and X America News. So follow us on all platforms if you can at the Second Syndicate and share this broadcast so we can help boost the algorithm and get us out there into the interwebs to spread the movement and spread the information.
Yeah, the Syndicate is everywhere, guys. Share our feed. Follow us on all platforms. We are everywhere.
Awesome. So I think we should just jump right on in. Nephi, do you want to give us a brief introduction about yourself before we start getting in some questions?
Yeah, sure. So I'm the Director of Government Relations and State Affairs for NSSF, and there's actually a few of us with that title throughout the country, and we cover certain regions. And so the region that I'm primarily responsible for NSSF is all the political happenings in the Rockies and the Upper Midwest. And so that gives me everything from basically Idaho over to Wisconsin, and then from the Canadian border down to the Colorado border. So
That's
those
a large
states.
region, Nephi. That probably
Yeah.
one of the biggest regions out there, I would guess.
We're all of our regions are that way, and
Wow.
it's just a matter of funding, right? Because we're a nonprofit also, and what you see is, everybody assumes that there's this juggernaut, massive money in the firearms industry, but it's really just small businesses. It's there isn't this huge windfall of cash to so we all do as much work as we possibly can. And so for me, that means, I have folks that I work with in Colorado, just like I do in Wyoming and in Idaho and the Dakotas. And those folks, people on the ground that let us know what's going on. And we collaborate, we email back and forth, we talk on the phone, and then we try and figure out how we can, make the best use of our time in all of our states. And so for me, Colorado's it's just a huge priority because Colorado is ground zero for anti-gun efforts. There's just no other way to put it.
training ground or testing ground. Things that we see pop up here usually pop up in another state within a year, if not the same legislative session, a lot of the times.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of this stuff where people trade that stuff around. And how I got here, I mean, I'm fairly familiar with it because how I got here is I worked for a politician. So I worked, I came out of college as I'm a natural resource expert. So I was a biologist and did a lot of work with conservation work with, wildlife and wildlife entities and agencies. And then I ended up as the policy advisor for a conservative Republican governor. And for that governor, I did natural resource policy. I worked on energy strategy. So basically, I'm a big fan of coal and oil, and there's nothing wrong with the windmill, but
well, your last name is Cole.
It is, but yeah, I'm traditional energy sources. The state I worked for, we were the number one energy exporting state in the country, and we were really proud of it. And so then I also did the water strategy for that state. Water's a big deal in the state, and then I ended up picking up the governor one day. We had some firearms issues, and he called me and he said, like, I want you to take my firearm stuff. And at the time, Colorado was, it is almost the exact same time that Colorado was going through and trying to pass a ban on standard capacity magazines. And so the governor, the governor that I worked for at the time was working hard to say, like, hey, if you're going to, you better not mess with the Second Amendment companies. We'll give them a place to live. And so it was a really interesting time period to work there. Well, through that experience, I ended up, working to try and, we just decided that we thought that there was a really good chance if Hillary Clinton became president, that they were going to attack everywhere. And we knew that these companies were going to need a safe place to build their businesses and their homes and to, and a state to defend them. And so we put together this plan where we're going to recruit companies to move to our state. We were pretty successful at it. And really built a fairly strong small firearms industry there. And I was recruiting at the Shooting Hunting Outdoor Trade Show, SHOT Show. Sure. And so SHOT Show is owned by NSSF. And so NSSF, I'm there, with my boss and talking to companies about, all this stuff. Well, my boss termed out of office, as politicians do. His term was up, and I got a phone call and asked if I'd be interested in working for NSSF, doing government relations for them. And I got to join a team that is really a magnificent group of dudes, small group, but very effective group. Went from working for a governor to working for NSSF. And so you see all this stuff. So, the shenanigans and the politics. And, I've been around enough legislatures that I can tell you how this happens. Both left-leaning and right-leaning. It's like you go to a state, you wonder where these bad ideas come from. Well, they come from some other state. And all these legislators who are from one party, they'll go to a big retreat in Vermont or something. And then they'll say, like, what did you do this year? And then they'll pass around draft legislation. And suddenly you see this same bad language that, from Colorado pop up in New Mexico. And you'll see it's bad idea in Illinois pop up in these other states. And it has a lot to do with how they pass around these, pieces of bad legislation, and they hand it to somebody. And a lot of times they're, powerful political interests like the Bloomberg groups who are, pressuring these politicians of, that lean left to bring this legislation. And so that's
pressuring
absolutely
them with this too.
Yeah. There's when somebody makes a massive campaign contribution, I don't envy those folks who then have to, when that person shows up and says, wait, I'd really like you to champion a piece of terrible legislation. Like, well, that puts them in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a lot of that going on. It's unfortunate.
Was that Texas that you were working in? You said
no, it wasn't. It was your neighbor to the north.
Oh, okay. Oh, Oklahoma or Arkansas.
Wyoming.
Neighbor of the north here. I was thinking Texas. My bad.
No, Wyoming.
My bad.
Most people don't know that because it's such a small state population-wise.
I actually didn't know that. That's interesting. It's a beautiful state too.
Yeah, and then Magpul, of course, the corporate Magpul is in Austin, Texas.
Yes, and then they moved their manufacturing to Wyoming.
Yeah, and Wyoming was really excited because and that's the interesting thing. If you're a state with 500,000 people, if you're a state like big state, that's maybe huge. You don't care. Maybe you don't care about 300 jobs.
No, but
if you're in,
it's huge.
Yeah, it's massive. And so, we're really
jobs too.
Yeah, what a phenomenal company, phenomenal people. Just it's really a pleasure to work for the industry. Honestly, like
Oh,
everybody in the firearms industry is awesome. Like there are
absolutely.
good people and bad people in every industry, but our industry has a better percentage of high caliber people than any other
No
industry.
pun intended. That's
No
Um,
pun
good.
intended.
my necklace, actually, I have a necklace that says high caliber that I got from a good friend. I
So,
wanted to ask you, Nephi, was there a defining moment in your life that made this more than just a job, that it made defending the 2A more personal for you? I see a lot of hunting and stuff behind you. Tell us a little bit
Yeah.
more about that.
Well, I've always been involved in the firearms world ever since I was a kid. One of my first memories is going out shooting with my grandfather, who, I always like to say my grandfather was a special man. He managed ranches. He wasn't a rancher. He didn't own the property. He
sure.
was the ranch manager. So he was like the rip of the
Yeah, I was
ranch, if
gonna
you
say that's
will.
what exactly what I thought
Yeah.
about.
And he was just an amazing man. And so I grew up kind of idolizing him and getting a chance to, go out and shoot and hunt with him. And then, I think it's really shaped how I think about all this stuff. I have a lot of friends have always been, military friends, and I've always been interested in it. And then, my 11th great grandfather, I think about this a lot. My 11th great grandfather was a guy, who was, he was, uh, the first governor of the Plymouth colony. And
Oh
so
wow.
he stepped off his name's William Bradford, and he stepped off the Mayflower and like into the Americas, and like ever since then, like that's how long my family's been here.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's really interesting. Everybody thinks of the Plymouth of the Pilgrims as like almost like pacifists. They
Yeah.
weren't. I mean,
No.
it was extremely violent times, and I
Fleeting
when
religious persecution.
yeah, when he passed away on his will is public, public document. You can go
Sure.
look at it. And in his will, he had a couple of, he had like a blunderbuss, like 3 muskets, like 2 barrels for guns, like a set of pistols, a sword. He had like one of those, he had like the metal hat and all this. And so you see that even pilgrims, like from the very beginning, you want to know like what they prize. Like these things were important to them. Being able to
Absolutely.
defend yourself, being armed was important to them. And I think,
Well, no one
um,
was really coming to help back then
no,
in the Pilgrim
and they,
days.
and they still aren't. And
Yeah.
on his
Facts.
tombstone, there's an inscription on his tombstone. It says, "Qua parcis difficilmente adepti sunt noli terpiter relinquere," and it's Latin, and it
It's too
means,
much Latin for me to recognize a word
yeah,
for it.
it's it means what your forefathers have gained through hardship don't give away lightly.
Oh, wow.
If we
And
could
that's
only
always,
teach that to these kids now.
yeah,
That's a really good quote. I like that.
Hmm.
I like
yeah.
that.
And that's me. Like that's what I feel like. These things that these rights that that we have really suffered for, bled for over generations. You can't just watch these things go. And there's a certain, the 2A fight it's a good versus evil fight. Whenever you have a group of people that are coming in, their goal is to take away a fundamental right. And I don't care what the fundamental right is. Pick your right.
Yeah.
But these are rights that belong to anybody. They're God given when you are
Yeah.
born.
God
And
given.
when somebody shows up to take that away, like that's straight up good versus evil. And that's really easy to get behind the good guys on that one. Is to say like, no, I I believe strongly in choice. I believe strongly in an individual's right to determine their own direction. And when people are trying to take away ultimately your ability, your self-defense, whatever you want to call it, whether it's defending your nation, whether it's defending your neighborhood, whether it's defending your house or your person, all these things, the people that are trying to take that away, it's simply wrong. And so it's really easy to get behind working for an organization whose goal is to preserve your right to make that decision for yourself. And I love working for NSSF. It's a privilege.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate seeing you and your buddy John down at the Capitol all the time. I've been I'm more than honest when it comes to the audience, and I want you guys to know, like, I have not been easy on Nephi. I have grilled him. I have asked him for the truth. I have asked him for hard truths. I have asked a lot of him, and he has always been forthright with me, and he's always been honest with me, and I really appreciate that, because you come into this and you think that you know everything, and you have this passion to fight, but politics is a dirty business, and you have to talk to people that you don't like, and you have to be willing to have very, very difficult conversations with people that could care less about you. And it's really taught me a lot of things, and you're one of the people that have always been consistent, so thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
Well, I appreciate it.
Speaking of opposition, people that are trying to take away our rights, we will be debiting a new shirt called Mom's Demand Ammo coming to our store very soon. I'll let Alicia talk about our new merch store. We've been working on it here for a little bit, but we have some designs that we came up with. If you want to tell the audience a little bit about it here.
So Teddy's putting me on the spot. Today we were like, we don't have any merch. We don't have anything that we can do for people to support us. People always say I have a really cool logo. So we have a couple shirts that you don't see on the website yet, but you can go to Bonfire. It is a really cool website that I've used before. We are a 501c4, everyone. So don't forget, the show is powered by patriots like you. This merch is for people like you. So your support keeps us fighting, and your rights in the Capitol, in the courtrooms, in the communities. So donate, shop the merch, drop a super chat if you can. Head over to thesecondsyndicate.com, become a member. We're going to have some really cool merch that we're going to drop probably in the next hour or so after the show, because Teddy is on me about it.
Yeah, Mom's Demand Ammo. We have our Gun Salesman of the Year with Tom Sullivan on it, and we have our
Wanted for Treason,
Governor Polis shirt coming out. So we'll definitely have some cool merch for you guys to be able to purchase and be able, and those proceeds will go towards the Second Amendment, guys. We just we're getting that brand out there, and we're keeping the fight. So
it's time to have some fun.
Moving on
at the
into
behest
our
of others.
next segment here, about a little bit more firearm industry specific, Nephi. So
Yeah.
what are the biggest threats facing the firearms industry right now that people may not be aware of or may not be seeing? What's the biggest threat to our 2A rights behind the scenes, so to speak?
So it's a great question, and I'm glad you said behind the scenes. I think that for a lot of us, I'm actually waiting. I'm thoroughly convinced, I believe to be so, that as soon as the Supreme Court picks up one of these cases that they're not, they keep saying they're not ripe yet, but as soon as they grant cert to either, it's not going to matter whether it's a mag ban or whether it's a gun ban, they're going to all go away. I truly believe that, because the writings on the wall, they're not constitutional. So when people are banned, there's none of them hold water. These are all items that are in common use for lawful purposes. They're clearly protected by the text and by the spirit of the Second Amendment. And so it's only a matter of time. So I think we need to keep fighting that battle. But I think one of the reasons you're seeing all these bills get crazier and crazier is because I think that the advocates of the anti-gun world know that it's only a matter of time. So they can throw all this garbage against the wall because I think that they know that it doesn't matter what they say that they're going to ban. It's garbage anyway, and the Supreme Court's going to say that and get rid of it. That's what I believe. That said, I think that the thing that we need to worry about, here's what you don't see. The stuff that you need to worry about is banking. So it's, am I talking too long? Do you have a break coming up?
No, you're good. Keep
Okay, good.
The show is about you.
One thing I do want to announce is we just had a $50 super chat. By the way, thank you, Robert Rizzo.
Woo-woo!
We appreciate you, big guy. Thanks for
Round of
watching tonight.
applause.
I think for a $50 super chat, at some point, I'm going to get shot with a water gun. I don't know where it's going to come from. Or what's
I
going
thought
to
that was
happen,
for
but I have a
$100.
feeling it's going to happen. $50 is
it's coming?
Okay, I was told it's coming. So
Yeah.
Get Alicia.
So
I think she deserves it. Oh God. Okay.
What you guys need to look at is you need to look at third-party discrimination. So third-party discrimination was already occurring. It started under the Clinton administration. It was perpetuated under the Obama administration. And what that is, like Operation Choke Point, right?
Yes, we were going to mention Operation Choke Point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Operation Choke Point was an effort where they, behind the scenes, what they realized is they can't take away your rights. It's unconstitutional. So instead, behind the scenes, they tried to take away ability to do business.
Yes.
And so what they did is they targeted certain businesses and tried to remove their access to the banking and credit industry. And by doing so, the idea is if Sig Sauer can't get a loan to make guns, then you can't buy guns from Sig Sauer.
Yes.
And so that's the whole purpose behind this. And they did that. They got found out and slapped on the hand. The Trump administration, largely undid that. But then what they did is they tried to privatize it. And they did that by going to these companies, going to banks, and they went to the boards and they said, look, if you really care about the world and kids and whatever, then you need to have prohibitions on loaning to certain companies. And they baked that in. And so what they're doing is they're trying to bake in these banking policies that say, like, you can't, if you were a member of the disfavored industries, fossil fuels, guns, or whatever, then you don't get the same rights as everybody else in terms of where you can use your credit card. Can you have a bank account?
Yeah,
and this is
stop the financial ability for companies to be able to get money for a mill to manufacture, to get property,
to be able to pay their rent, to be able to pay their employees. I mean, it's just a really insidious way to basically try and force people out of business by taking away their access to something that businesses have to have, access to finance.
We're seeing that in Colorado too, because we have now state licensing that goes into effect in July. We're going to have a state version of the ATF. We've got a new 6.5% excise tax. And a lot of people out there in the world, they don't understand on firearms, margin's thin. 6.5% of the total sale of the item takes almost all the profit out of it. If the company were to eat that, there would be no profit in it, no ability to do it. Then we have things like the semi-automatic ban that's going into effect next year that they just passed here in Colorado. That's going to make it, I mean, that bans the majority of people's business here. It's trying to take the industry out completely. And
the majority of firearms are semi-automatics that are magazine fed. And they're clearly protected by the Second Amendment. And so, these are challenging issues. So, banking, if you want to look at where the sneaky part it's going to be, they passed an MCC bill in Colorado last year, Merchant Category Code bill. Now, the reason that they passed that bill, what that bill did is it said that entities that sell primarily firearms, they have to have a credit card code that says they're a firearms seller. The reason that they did that is because they want Visa then to deny.
Yes.
Yeah. And
we've actually been seeing that on the storefronts with certain people's banks, smaller banks especially, with their debit cards getting declined because it's a gun transaction, and they can see that on the banking side.
Yeah. And that's a big issue.
Sorry, we just
and
got another donation from Zack Attack. Thank you, Zack Attack. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Zack Attack. We appreciate you.
Not about the credit card.
It's all good. It's something that we have to be vigilant on. It's something we have to fight. Because and here's the best way to do it. It's some of these states. What we've done in Colorado tries to pass a bill that says you can track MCCs. Last year we went to 18 states and NSSF and passed a bill banning it. And so what that did is it made it impossible for them to have a national effort at that. And so if you look at every state surrounding Colorado, you can't do that. You can't track people's. Yeah. And so, but we, what does NSSF do? Well, we work with, we lobby Visa, we lobby American Express and like these other companies, and they don't, they're not going to do it. Yeah. And so they're saying like, no, we have no interest in being the comptrollers for somebody's, for these efforts. And if we don't do that as entities, us, you, if we don't talk to those people and say, no, don't do it, then, it's the squeaky wheel. If we let the squeaky wheel be the Moms Demand Action group, and those are the only people that they hear from, then they're going to try and pass this type of legislation that ultimately, there's a strategy to it for them to try and get us by, death by 1,000 cuts. And so we need to fight those. So woke banking, and the Trump administration has been all over this. They've been awesome on it. Insurance, so any of these basic fundamental things, they're going to try and deny firearms entities access to these, how about, you'll know this one well. How about YouTube? How about freedom of speech? These are areas where
America News for giving us that freedom of speech right now. We have over 4,000 people watching live right now, and we have at least the ability to speak out.
These are YouTube, areas we are broadcasting on YouTube right now. We have close to 500,000 subscribers. I don't know how many are watching right now. I can't see it on my end. I know the guys in the back can, but I'm sure it's not nearly what should be watching with the amount of people that actually subscribe to our notifications. Because
the wokeism there, right? Mm-hmm. It's like the woke few who've decided that they were going to make rules, and those rules are just made as stumbling blocks to try and catch belief systems that they don't agree with. In this case, the Second Amendment, and try and just like they're trying to push you out of being able to have access to your voice, they try and do that with people's bank accounts too.
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to be watching, because we're going to win the hardware issue. And so they're going to have to be sneaky, and they're going to sneak around behind, and they're going to try and undo us in other ways. And we have to be vigilant.
Absolutely.
And that's what one of our questions was, but I think you pretty much answered that. We were going to ask how the NSSF is stepping up to protect like gun shops and FFLs who are being buried in regulations that are under attack
Yeah,
by
so we
financial
passed
institutions.
So I'll tell you, just quickly, we passed MCC prohibitions in 18 states last year. We've passed the Financial Industry Non-Discrimination Act in a bunch of different states. And what that act is that's bills in different states that prohibit discrimination based on you can't deny access to funding for these entities solely because they're related to the Second Amendment, related to firearms. And so we continue to work on those issues, free speech issues, shipping. That's another one.
Troublesome. They're trying to block us out from being able to ship with any carrier right now.
That's right.
You talked about non-discriminatory policies for financing, but at the same time, they can charge a higher rate. So, for example, my card fees as a gun store are much higher than a non-gun store's credit card fees because I'm a high-risk industry, is what they call it.
And this is what we're looking to go. Like, we have a team in DC. They're working really hard. They're working with the administration, and they're working on with senators on legislation, because when you have bad states that are passing these types of legislation, the only fix is to get up there and have good states pass the opposite. Basically, you have to put your thumb on the other side of the scale, and you have to get federal action. So it's not reasonable. Firearms industry is not a high risk industry. In fact, we are one of the safest industries. We're safer than trampolines by a long shot. We're safer than bicycles. We're safer than automobiles. And so this idea that we're somehow a high risk industry, you'd ask how. The only thing that we're at risk of is we're at risk of junk lawsuits. And that's something that we're trying to put a stop to as well. And that's why we passed the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act. That's why we try and protect that. That's why in states like Colorado, individuals are trying to bring legislation to circumvent protection of lawful commerce and arms, because, and for those that aren't aware, the PLCAA just says you can't sue a firearms entity because the gun works, which is what the lawsuits that they're trying in New York right now, in New Jersey, they're trying to say, well, it's a public nuisance. A gun works. And so therefore that's a public nuisance because somebody can use it in crime, and it's not that it doesn't function.
Yeah.
It's that it functions like it's supposed to.
Correct.
And so
it's just the
PLCA
way
protects
that
us about
the
that.
user is using it. You don't see them going after Ford and Dodge for running down groups of people in the street with rented vans and trucks, like we've seen terrorists do.
Yeah. Budweiser is not responsible for whether or not somebody gets pulled over for a DUI.
100%.
I know. And so, these are the types of fights that, NSSF, we are pretty wrapped around the axle on a lot of these fights that have a lot of nuance in them, these financial issues and tracking issues and that kind of stuff. Whereas some of our, I like to call them our cousins, we don't always see eye to eye, and that's fine. But some of our, they're, more right-leaning gun organizations, they're going to be more in your face, like punching really hard on the more individual Second Amendment issues.
Sure.
We're going to be involved more on the commerce side of Second Amendment issues. And so we love them. We love all of them. We love what they do. We hope they appreciate us occupying a little bit of space too.
Well, it gives us a coalition to attack from multiple fronts. We can't have one organization hitting every front. We need multiple organizations focusing on specific things. Well, guys, we've got a commercial break coming up here, I think, in the next... Right now. So we'll be back with you here with more with Nephi Cole after this brief commercial break.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Welcome back, everyone. We had a special donation from Zack Attack for a really good chunk amount of money. So they're going to...
Is that vodka? No. Just kidding.
I love this. I love this.
Fun stuff, guys. Fun stuff.
We have a really good time here. I just want to say, we're back from commercial break. We're here with Nephi Cole of the NSSF, if you're just tuning in.
And also, before we get into the next question, I just want to say one of our sponsors on here is, of course, Mike Lindell, MyPillow. We have a promo code for that company, whether you're buying energy drinks or whether you're buying pillows from them. It's the 2ND. THE 2ND will get you discounts and all kinds of good stuff and give us credit as an affiliate. So please use it. Mike Lindell is running against good old
Gosh, look at you.
good old Tampon Tim up in Minnesota. Tampon Tim. So,
he's a very nice guy, and he stands for a lot of freedom.
They're trying to bankrupt him right now, so
him.
Support him. He's been building and manufacturing in America before tariffs. He believes in this country, and his company provides a lot of good jobs to Americans out there. So,
and his pillows are really comfortable. Actually, I have a couple of them in my house, and they're really good.
If you don't have one, you got to have one because they are literally the best pillows. So
they really are. And I'm one of those people that's like, I'm a TJ Maxx shopping kind of chick. I don't really like paying full price for stuff. And my best friend bought a new house and he put all my pillows in his house. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I need these now.
Yeah. So you had to go get a good pillow.
And also the next $50 or above super chat, Alicia is getting the water gun, not me. So.
You guys are so messed up. We have another question from the Peanut Gallery for you, Nephi. It says, what kind of unity or division exists inside of the firearm industry when it comes to the defending the 2A rights?
So that's a really great question. I think that within the industry, I would say that honestly, the industry is very united. So the industry itself. So when you're talking about the companies, there's a little bit of there's a little bit of jealousy. So you'll get there's a company I know of that makes they make really good ARs. They're on the East Coast. They make a lot of lowers and stuff like that. And everybody loves them. They don't just make ARs. They make a great AK platform rifles and stuff too.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
So they like to really raise the flag on the Second Amendment stuff. And so sometimes they'll poke people in the eye and be like, well, but I mean that's all. At the end of the day, I would tell you that every one of these companies, they all, they didn't think that one company disliked the ATF enough. And the issue is all these companies are doing the same stuff. They're all having to jump through the exact same hoops, and they're all ultimately working in the same direction. They're pulling the same way. So I think we have to be okay with the fact that some of our companies are going to just be more vocal about it. Typically those, smaller companies. Your larger companies, though, like those companies, the biggest companies in the world in terms of firearms, are actively putting money towards the Second Amendment fight. They're paying for they're paying for the soldiers on the ground to do the fighting. And I'd say that the industry, 100%, there's nobody in the industry that wants us to give up on the fight. There's nobody in the industry that's saying, "Hey, let's strike a deal. Let's freeze somebody out." I will tell you that's interesting.
Anyway.
No, there was an anti-gun guy, like a guy who used to work for a company in the industry that went and wrote a book, and that guy, I don't have a lot of respect for that, but it was an anti-gun book like that guy made a bunch of claims about like, well, the people in the industry are, we're divided on, we're not, Now that said, your Second Amendment groups, you have something else going on entirely. Yeah. Which is there are a lot of groups that there's the old vanguard, right? The groups that have been around forever. And, when they slipped a little bit, when they run into tough times, it gives an opportunity for somebody else to jump up and say, well, maybe we could do a better job. And so you have a variety of these, other groups that are, will jump up and try and fill that space. Hopefully we get the vanguards back and they get healthy, because it doesn't matter. Like, we could use, if we got a 800-pound gorilla, send him, right? Like
100%.
we need all the muscle that we can get. We need the old gorilla, the old silverback. We need the young guy too. And so all of these groups, they're all extremely valuable. And the challenge is that if you have a couple of groups that are trying to occupy the same space in terms of your dollar, sometimes, they'll feud.
We've definitely seen a lot of that, especially during this legislative session. But yeah.
Well, here's the important thing for everybody to remember. We all are on the same team.
Indeed.
And as far as I'm concerned, join all of them. There's no problem with you, getting a membership to one and a membership to the other.
I will say, vet those memberships, though, and vet who you're giving your money to, because there's a lot of organizations out there, especially on the national scene. Now, NSSF, I've seen you at the website. Oh, $50 super chat. Alicia got squirted. All right, awesome. But there's a lot of I lost my train of thought. Give me a sec.
You're right.
Lose my train of thought. So what Teddy was saying is, we see a lot of comments on our X account on Instagram saying, hey,
talking about national
I donate to
organizations.
this company and I donate to that company. And I want to say, I want to be a jerk. Everybody knows I'm a pretty loudmouth person. I don't really hold back, but there are some organizations that are doing a lot in the media. They throw a lot of events and they like to be the cool guys on the scene. But when it comes to being involved here in Colorado,
we don't
they
see
don't
them
have
at the legislature like
anybody
we see Nephi
here in Colorado.
or-
I don't see them. Nobody knows where they are. They don't have any state representatives. So it's like, we really, really need help here in Colorado. So
Yeah, there
vet
are
those
fake
organizations.
There really are. There
I
are
wouldn't even
groups.
say fake groups, because they do things on the national level. It's just that money is not spent here in their local states.
Here's what I'd say to be careful of. Vet your groups. I mean, you're entirely right. There are groups that have multiple state entities, and I'm not going to mention them on here,
Sure.
but
we'll leave that out of this.
but that, like, they don't show up during the sessions.
No.
Like, they do an Instagram feed from their car driving down the road.
Yep.
And they talk about, like, they're in the fight or whatever, but like
us more money.
but they're not in the fight.
Nope.
I mean,
so-
we can mention some of the people we did see at the legislature this session. I mean, we saw RMGO, we saw CSSA, we saw
Yep.
NRA, we saw NSSF. Those are some
If you're
organizations
showing,
we did see.
look for the people that are
course, us.
showing up. Look for the people that are showing up and support them. Support them how you can. And here's the funny thing I'll tell you about NSSF. You can like us because you guys, like, here's the funny thing. Like, you can't join our group. So for everybody, we tell them, like, hey, if you're a company, join us, because none of the other entities represent a company. But again, that's what we do. And our we don't collect money from individual memberships. We make, like, our lobbying efforts are just an auxiliary of being a member of NSSF. If you're a member of NSSF, it's just like, we have lobbyists for NSSF. That's what we do. We're not going out and seeking lobbying contributions.
Sure.
It's our job to represent the industry.
Absolutely.
But lots of credit to so many people that, again, we don't all see eye to eye, but Travis with NRA and Ian with
Travis is great.
RMGO,
Ian's
man,
great.
they're
He's a friend.
both on the ground and they're both going to war for your rights. They're not going to see eye to eye all the time. That's just fine. We don't need to see eye to eye all the time. In
As long
fact,
as we're all fighting for the same cause, that's all that matters.
if somebody can throw a jab and open up the window for somebody else's right hook, that's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Celebrate it and appreciate that's how we get this done. We get this done by having different voices, because sometimes different voices can talk to different legislatures.
Absolutely.
Well, we're
And
not going
so-
to win this fight by ourselves. We need allies. We need to come together. We need to form an army. We need to be able to fight back collectively.
And that's one of the things that we heard when Teddy, Rosie, and I were talking about creating the second syndicate. We said, we need an organization. We are of the people. We are the people of Colorado. We should start this organization and give people a place to call home. And, we had so many people say, well, RMGO already exists. CSSA already exists. The NRA already exists. I said, and guess what? We play nicely with all of those organizations, and we want to support all those. But there's
we're kind
people
of the glue holding a lot of those organizations together, trying to bring those organizations together as well.
Very true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's going to be people that are going to resonate better with Teddy or me or Ian or,
Ava.
the CSSA, Ava, somebody. But it's like, let's give people options. The more people that we have in the fight, the more people that we can reach.
Absolutely.
Because honestly, we can't be everywhere all the time. And
we
when we first started doing this, and I'd go down
we
to the
saw
Capitol,
this,
we were
we saw
alone.
this at the Capitol as well this legislative session. RMGO, CSSA was covering our flank, we were covering their flank. We worked very well together. It was great. And unfortunately we didn't win that battle, but
We haven't won many.
the war's not over, so we've got a long ways to go here.
But I'm very thankful for the other people that are fighting with us. And one of the things that somebody said to me is like, oh, Ava made a video or Melissa made a video. Aren't you going to make your own video? I was like, absolutely not.
They covered
I
it.
don't want to waste my time. I'm thankful that we have them because now I don't have to do that part.
We're not covering the same thing.
I can refer them to Melissa. I can refer them because we're all friends. We work together. I want to see us all succeed. And
Speaking of which,
tonight.
we'll have Ava next week on the show.
Oh yeah, we will.
Yeah. There's only so much bandwidth that an individual has or that an individual organization has. And you can't be everything to everybody. So, we should celebrate the fact that,
100%.
somebody else, that's the direction that they want to go and they want to get excited about that group and supporting that group. Knock yourself out, man. Just, that said, like there's a couple things, and I hope that, and I don't know if we're going to talk about this later, but there's a, be smart about how you do it. Be smart about who you support, and be smart about how you do it, because
Absolutely.
it's really not going to hurt anybody to be a member of like a lot of members of different organizations.
No, that money's going to the 2A.
But how we message for those organizations, we can do harm.
can.
So
You can, absolutely.
so make sure that you're talking to your organization and that you're learning how to do it the right way. And I work for a politician, right? And I will tell you, working for again a conservative governor on a different issue, like we dealt with all sorts of issues. You get phone calls, we get these letters from the environmental groups who would send 5 gajillion form letters, try and get.
I think we lost you there, Nephi.
We lost your audio.
1 second, guys.
Nephi.
We're having a technical difficulty. We'll have Nephi back in 1 sec. We lost your audio there. If you can hear us, brother.
So I want to say
but in the
thank
meantime,
you
we
to Emily
got,
Rose
Emma Rose and
and
Elizabeth. For two
I like you
$5
ladies so
supers.
much. You guys are
Thank
so
you guys
good.
so
Thank you
much.
for supporting us.
I think we should both get squirted for that, guys.
Sorry, guys.
Don't you
Whatever.
dare.
Go ahead and get Alicia.
Don't you dare.
There you go.
There we go. We got you back, brother.
That's how you know that what I was about to tell you was super important. Was that when Bloomberg gets it?
Yeah,
That's how you know.
They're cutting your audio feed over there, bud.
Yeah.
Welcome back, my
I
friend.
don't remember what I was starting to talk to you about, but it was really important.
We were talking
it was,
about
It was when you make that phone call.
Yes.
One respectful phone call, taking somebody out and having coffee with a legislator that you haven't, that represents you. That's just a massive investment in political economy, and I think that in Colorado, everybody's just getting much better at this, of calling a legislator and saying, hey, when we should start working these legislators is right now.
Absolutely.
It's not
We got
during the
another
session.
Legislature coming up. We got another legislative session in
Yep.
2026.
Now we have 8 months to do the work. And what's the work right now? The work is figuring out who the representatives are. And like, it is saying, hey, I'm your constituent. I'd love to meet you for coffee and talk with you about what's important. And you don't even need to know what legislation is going to come up. If you go out with them and buy and you can't buy them a coffee in Colorado, that's the funny part. But if you go out and drink coffee at the same table as them and visit with them and say, look, this is important to me. These are things that I care about. Here's what's going to happen. Next January, when somebody's considering a crazy piece of legislation, you're going to be able to walk into their office in the Capitol. They will remember you. And there's a chance that they will vote the right way.
Yeah.
It's not always going to happen, but it
always,
happens enough.
It's always better to try sugar before you go to salt. And we've tried that with every legislative member that we have met with, discussed with this legislative session. There were a few, unfortunately, that were just lost causes. So we went to salt and we were able to successfully flip a vote. with someone in our local area here. We won't go into too much detail about that. Some of you guys know about that recall campaign, but it effectively worked. He switched his vote and voted against SB 003. Not that it changed the end result, but it was still one out of many votes that was necessary that needed to be flipped. Moving on to our next topic, though, here, Nephi, something that I want to talk to you about as an FFL. That's someone who, during all the amount of time that we've been speaking out against these anti-gun bills, had a snap on it, is the ATF's zero tolerance policy, which was recently overturned by the Trump administration. I wanted to talk about that, and I wanted to ask you about that. The Biden administration's zero tolerance policy on FFLs caused a lot of fear in the industry. How was the NSSF instrumental in fighting back and ultimately helping eliminate this? And what was the real world impact of that policy on dealers? Because, as you said, NSSF represents dealers, and you also do audit protection and things of that nature for your members.
That's right.
He was really excited to ask this question to you, by the way.
We have a team of people that goes around and works with FFLs, and so a lot of you, who are, a lot of you know JC.
Yep, JC.
So,
and JB.
Yep, who again, and we have those teams all over the nation going around and helping people with compliance. Here's why that was such a terrible rule. So the no strikes and you're out rule, the Biden rule, basically treated everything like it was exactly the same. I think we all agree that if someone egregiously, if someone were to come into a shop and say like, oh yeah, this guy's he's clearly
a criminal.
Yeah. I mean, and he's
got
still a gun.
13 tats on his knucks, things like that.
Yeah, he can't, and he's standing there telling his girlfriend to file the paperwork while he's that's one thing. It would be reasonable to maybe to say like, oh yeah, no, there's no zero tolerance for that. Okay.
Correct.
But here's the problem.
We could all agree with that. That's not what they were doing.
Absolutely. What they were doing is they were finding somebody that made a mistake on 4473 where they forgot to initial a spot because they did a cross out.
Or the background check was 31 days old versus 30 because they didn't count the calendar days right or something of that nature.
And they wanted to strip their license for that.
100%.
And so they wanted
to
FFLs
that got shut down from this.
Yeah, 1,000.
Yeah.
So there were 1,000 of them this last year that the Biden administration was successful in doing that with. And just people that and in a lot of cases, these aren't people that they actually finished the entire proceeding. They just buffaloed people.
Yeah.
They just
turned their license in. They didn't want to deal with it.
Yeah. They're like, I just don't want to deal with it. I quit. And so, I mean, again, it's egregious discrimination. They would never be okay with you doing that to their own employees, right? If you're like, well, you're an ATF employee.
They're upset about that right now
you're
because
fired.
we're getting cracked down with all the foreign and illegal work that's getting out of here.
Well, look at the double standard as well. For example, if you, owe the IRS money, they're going to charge you interest. But if they owe you money and they've had it for 3 years, they're not giving you interest on that money.
They're sorry.
They're sorry, but there's no responsibility. Yeah. Also, the big thing about the zero tolerance policy under Biden that a lot of people don't realize is it did not apply to the ATF making clerical errors and errors on their forms on their side. So it was complete double standard.
Yeah, and so what did we do about it? So it's been rescinded, and our team in DC, where we have a very strong DC team, has been in all the offices, and they were part of working to identify the acting director, new directors were on that all the time, and they were part of negotiating and pushing for that and lobbying, so that it's one of the first things that the Trump administration did. Yeah. And so we have a great team there, and that's what we do. That said, there actually aren't that many of us. Our government relations team for NSSF, I think we're like 12 people deep.
Yeah.
And that 12 people deep, like that's covering
50 states.
50 state legislatures. And then the other thing I do all of our Fish and Wildlife Agency stuff. So I'm going to, all those events. And then my specialty, because I work for a governor, is I go to all the governor's events. And so if you have a big get together where a bunch of governors are there, I'm going to show up at that event and then try, again, a lot of what we do, the same things that you need to do. So the same things that you need to do as individual citizens and entities is you use this off season right now. Yes, the sessions is over, but that just means that we have 8 months.
Start sharpening your knives and cleaning your guns. No.
You're exactly right. It's time for us to go and build the relationships that we need to be able to fight this battle again when this all starts back up, because it's not going away. And so what we have to do is make sure that we are talking to those elected officials, getting to know their staff, getting to know what their priorities are, sharing with them the information that, because ultimately, at the beginning I said this is good and evil thing.
Yeah.
It is. It's a battle of good and evil. And that also means it's a battle of truth versus not truth.
Absolutely.
And here's the one thing I know. The truth is on our side.
100%.
And so for us, I was I don't know if you name's Nephi. I was a Mormon missionary for a couple of years. This is nothing more than missionary work.
Sure.
It's just finding people and telling the truth and teaching them the truth. And people may not like the truth at first. It might be contrary to what they want to hear. But if you find people and teach people the truth, you're gonna win converts. And that's what all this is about. It's about us going in and finding those people and making converts and making sure that they hear our message, because when they hear the message, the truth is on our side. This is good versus evil. We're the good guys. And so,
Sir. White hats.
and we can bring people with us, because you know what? They don't want to be on the losing side either. They don't want to be the bad guys. They are the bad guys, but there aren't too many of them. There's at least one I can think of, but there aren't too many that are just straight up evil, but maybe there's one. So,
You're much more kind than me, Nephi.
You should, let us know later. We'll make a shirt for that, Nephi.
Shout out
maybe
to
you already
Tucker.
have.
Tucker donated $5.
Yeah, my
Thank you
adopted
so
son,
much.
Tucker. Thank you, Tucker. We miss you.
Well, again, you guys are doing great work, and that's the thing that everybody needs to realize. I hear a lot of people. I see a lot of people who are disappointed with Colorado, and what I will tell you, here's nobody wants to hear, the fight is alive and well in Colorado.
Well,
Yep.
And as much as we don't like it, I'll tell you, Michael Bloomberg is very upset with the returns he is getting on his investment in Colorado.
100%.
Because
they lost seats this last election.
Because we are winning battles.
Yes, sir.
We are winning the war. We may be losing battles occasionally.
Correct.
But the reality is, if you look at the legislative makeup, we do this all the states. Colorado's a super majority -1 vote of being able to do whatever they want.
Absolutely.
The Second Amendment groups have crushed it in Colorado over the last 3 to 4 years. I can't think of another group of people that has been more successful with worse odds than the gun community in Colorado. And I know that everybody's depressed, but don't get depressed.
Well,
we're winning this.
The Wild West
and we're going to win in the end.
Well, in Colorado.
I appreciate that. I really do, because we're beat up and we're tired, and I know you know that. You see what we go through, but I do want to say thank you, not only to you, but to everybody that has come through, the people that donate, the people that are watching our show right now, because we are getting stronger. We are gaining momentum, and I'm in this to win this. And this has brought me the most beautiful people in my life. Like Nephi, when you met me, I was just a irritated citizen who had no idea what she was doing. And I was like, what can I do? How do I do something? But I need to do something. And now we have a show where 4,000 people are watching nationally to bring attention to what is going on in Colorado. So growth happens, and it's not the speed, it's the direction. And I want people to remember that. And that leads me to another question that we wanted to ask you.
Into our next segment.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you obviously have been in the trenches across the country when it comes to the gunfight, and Colorado has basically, like we said earlier, has become ground zero for anti-gun legislation. So from your vantage point, how significant is Colorado in the national battle for the Second Amendment?
It's critical. It's one of the top, it may be the most important state. And the reason is because, you have certain states there's certain states where you just expect bad things from those states. And so you're always going to get, ridiculous legislation out of the state of New York. We know that. But because everybody knows that, nobody looks at them as an example of the direction that they should go. The reason that Colorado is important is because Colorado, once upon a time, used to be people considered it purple, right? And so within Colorado, you have the opportunity where people are going to try and pass legislation in Colorado that they're going to try and sell then to other Democrats and say like, oh yeah, they did it in Colorado, and Colorado's kind of moderate, so you should do that here. Well, it's just not the case. You know, these bills, you know, look at Senate Bill 3 that they passed, you know.
Yeah,
that,
it was a partisan passed bill, and not even
Yeah,
the entire
but-
party was on board.
it's a Frankenstein of what they wanted. But at the same time, why would they try and bring that in Colorado? Well, it's because when they looked in Colorado and they looked at after the results of the last election, I guarantee you
They see the
that
writings on the wall.
the left wing said, well, we got our butts kicked in the election. Donald Trump's going to be president. Where do we have the muscle to really pass something egregious? And they looked at Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Colorado has to be you cannot give up on Colorado, because they will see Colorado as an opportunity. They'll see it as a place where they can pass stuff. And why would they want to pass it here? Because just like we worked MCC legislation, we got it in one state and then we moved to the next. They're going to look at Colorado and they're going to say, well, if I could pass it in Colorado, maybe I can sneak it in some other state. And that's why you just can't afford to give up the battle.
What up, Big
Big
T?
Timber, join
See you
us
out there,
now.
Big
Good
Timber.
to see you, brother. All right. So, Nephi, what lessons have you learned from the battle here in Colorado, and how can activists, retailers, everyday gun owners better organize to prepare for what's coming, for what we see happening here in the United States, not just here in Colorado?
So here's the biggest lesson I learned. And you talked about somebody whose vote you were able to change. And I'm going to use that as my lesson learned for this session, which is in Colorado, that legislation that they were trying to bring was so bad. Most of the sponsors who were Democrats on that legislation, they didn't even read it. They had no idea what
They
that
kept
bill
calling
was.
it a magazine ban.
Mm-hmm.
They had no idea what it even was until they had already signed up for it. And so here's what I discovered. A bunch of those people were like, they wanted nothing to do with it when they figured out what it was. They were stung enough from last year and what happened in some of the primaries and stuff. They're like, we don't want anything to do with this bill. So they were lied to in order to get them onto that bill. And they were sorry that they were on it. These are Democrats who didn't want anything to do with it, and they were sorry that they were even a part of it.
Yeah,
They
we saw
felt
that with the state
bamboozled.
senator here in our area.
And here's what I
Or even.
Yeah, they were a sponsor. They took their name
Yeah.
off
They
as a
took their names
sponsor
off
once
of
they
it.
read the bill.
they don't want anything to do with this anymore. They're done with it. And so here's what I know. Give them a place to be done with it. You know, don't put them all in the same
Correct.
bucket. Don't
Give them
say
the
everybody
ability to get out of it.
don't say everybody with a D next to their name is the bad guy. Realize that there's a contingent there that doesn't want anything to do with this
You know,
issue anymore.
since you
Give
mentioned,
them
we
the
got a commercial
space.
break coming up here, but since you mentioned that, you know, during one of our rallies that we held up at the Capitol, we actually had someone who was running for a Democrat. I think, was it a Congress position or a state rep?
He for
State
Senate.
senator. State senator.
Senate.
He is running for state senate, and he is a Democrat, and he was
I believe his name
extremely
is
pro gun.
Dennis.
He actually spoke at our rally against the bill
Dennis
that they
Shum?
were trying to pass. What was it?
Dennis Shum.
Did a Shum, I believe,
think
out
that's
of
what it is.
Trinidad. Was it Trinidad?
I think it's Los Alamos County. I'm
That's,
from Trinidad.
that's what it is. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, it's not everybody in the Democratic Party. It really isn't. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's the majority, but there are people in that party that are more reasonable. Unfortunately, they just have to have a way to back out and not support these bills. You have to give them the ability to do what's right.
On that note, we are going to take another commercial break from a word
of our
from our
sponsors.
sponsors, and we will return shortly with some more words from Nephi Cole of the NSSF.
We'll be back with you in a moment.
Well, hello everybody! It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. painting, but I'm sure, or at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfthestudio.com.
Thank you for holding for us for that brief commercial break. Annie, by the way, has a show on Ex America News you should check out. You should also check out her personal story. She is a huge freedom advocate. She fled Iran, if I remember correct, came to the United States seeking freedom, and now is a huge patriot and proponent for the Second Amendment and freedom. So definitely check out her show, check out her art. If you need anything done, she can do it. Use the code THE2ND, same as our other code. So,
And she's absolutely beautiful too, by the way.
She's
She's a very stunning lady.
Well, awesome. So back with Nephi Cole here. Do you want to take the next one?
Sure. Well, just to remind everybody out there, please hit that subscribe, hit that bell, hit those notifications. Help us share the algorithm, buy some merch, donate. We are a 501c4. We are in the trenches out here doing our best to bring you the truth and spread the news about what is going on in Colorado, as well as fund some recall initiatives to get some ballot
And
initiatives going.
propositions.
We're going to do everything that we can here for you guys, but it takes an army. It really does. And we want you to join the syndicate. We want you to come on board with us, get rowdy with us, and help fight back. And whether it's $5 or $50,000, everything that you do and everything you donate to us helps. So we really appreciate that. We're going to get right back into our fourth segment of the night. We're going to talk about what we can do to build the future of the Second Amendment and Second Amendment advocacy. We have a great resource here, Nephi Cole of the NSSF. So one question that we want to have for you is, what does a proactive 2A strategy look like? Something that goes beyond just armed defense, but in your words, what are some other things that people can be doing?
To me, the most important thing to do is take people shooting. You know, like for those of you who are out there, it's something you like to do anyway. Take people to the range. You know, you don't make Second Amendment advocates by explaining to them what the Second Amendment means. You make them by introducing it to them.
And
Guns are the gateway drug to freedom, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, Nephi, I was going to say that's hugely important what you just said, and I've talked about this before. Is the left likes to argue with fear? They don't want proper education of firearms, but otherwise they would be doing what Arkansas is doing and teaching gun education and safety in schools. They don't want that. They want people to fear this item. They want people to be afraid of it, and they want them to be ignorant. Education is key. Taking someone out and getting them behind a rifle, getting them behind a handgun, and shooting for the first time takes the unknown away from it. It takes the ignorance away. So that's huge. So very good point, sir.
I really love that.
That's it. There you go. Take somebody shooting. If you're, and then I'd say, reject the artificial within the community. Don't let the artificial, there's these artificial divisions between like this group, that group, hunters, not hunters, tactical guy, over under shotgun guy. These are all
you can
these.
say FUD, Nephi. It's okay.
FUDs. Don't, FUDs leave tactical guys alone. Tactical guys, hug a FUD. Hug a FUD.
Hug a FUD. I'm going to make a shirt on that, Nephi. You don't own
hug
that,
a FUD.
He is on a mission tonight.
They need
for
a-
t-shirts,
Hey,
let me tell you.
we are a Black Rifle
I'm telling
store.
you.
I am anti-FUD, but you know what? Hug a FUD. I love it. We're doing that.
I like
Write
it.
that
Hug a
down.
FUD.
That's good.
Because
Shall we
even
donate
FUD,
some proceeds to the NSSF
I think
from
we
that?
could. We should do that.
just be a member. You guys, I think your business is, but if you're a media entity too, media entities can be members
We'll
of
join as a
NSSF.
media entity as well. I did
So-
know that.
And let us do, then you can get media badge to SHOT Show. See? So it just
Nephi,
makes
I heard you said you were going to get us into the party with the helicopter shoot next year.
which one? There's lots of parties with helicopter. It's I'm just tired of helicopters. They're so boring now. Shooting from helicopters is so
Oh,
passe.
well, excuse me.
Oh,
you got to have your
gee
pinky up
whiz.
when
You
you
got
do
some-
that, buddy.
Dirt on your shoulder there. So another question that we have for you, Nephi, is how do we win back the messaging war, especially with younger voters and suburban Americans who may not understand the gun community but still believe in freedom? Because there's a huge effort right now to censor our movement.
So I think I actually think it's going to keep getting better over the next 3 to 4 years because I don't think people are going to tolerate it anymore. I think that they've seen the discrimination. We got to give this administration time to work on it. We got to message this administration, but it is not. There's nothing cool about. You've been to the Capitol, you've been to these debates. The other side that's fighting this, there's nothing cool about it.
Yeah.
It's a
And
bunch of
we
people who
outnumber
are,
them every time we
yeah,
show up.
and they're like, I mean, it's people who, I feel for them, because they're scared of everything, right? The entire world is extremely frightening. They're hiding. They're like, I can't even get out. I can't even walk out of my house because I'm so scared of the world. Like, that's not cool. It's not real. And when you meet people that are real people in the Second Amendment community, and we were like, make sure and be yourself. That's the number one thing. Like, we don't need to be tougher than who we really are. We don't need to scare people, because the reality is, like, we're cool people, and we're a much funner group. And introduce people, bring them in, open the doors to the tent, take them shooting. And part of that is key. Goes to the FUD point. People don't have to look like us to be gun owners. They don't have to wear a flannel shirt. They don't have to wear a camouflage shirt. They don't have to like the same type of gun. It doesn't matter, right? And that's part of the thing that we have to do, is we have to be okay with making sure that there's, we need diversity in gun ownership. You need to make sure that we're not, making some group feel like that they are, somehow the Second Amendment doesn't belong to them. It belongs to everybody. So
Indeed.
Make sure they all know it.
Shout out to Tony Simon. The second is for everyone. He does a really good job of that. Every time I hear that, I think of him. He's working his tail end off out there in New Jersey, teaching people, taking people to the range.
State for gun control.
That's awful. Yeah. It's awful. So another question, and we'll give an outro and we'll say our closing remarks. But for FFLs, for business owners, and all the citizens out there watching, what's your advice for getting involved and having a real impact on state level legislation?
Is to show up. For FFLs, please be willing to come to the Capitol, and not just come. When I say show up, the best thing that an FFL can possibly do is find out who your elected representatives are, and then go have coffee with them and say, I am a business person. I employ this many people. This is my space. And make sure that they know, like, what you do for the community. And then if they want to be friends with you, take them in. Be friends, regardless of where they're from, what they look like, what kind of car they drive. It doesn't matter. Build that relationship. If they're uninterested in it, in having a relationship with you as their constituent, replace them.
Yeah.
And let them know you feel that way. Say, look, I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, and you represent me. If you don't want to represent me, I'm happy to try and find somebody else. But have those conversations with them. That's the best thing that you can do as a business owner, is get to know your elected officials and demand. It doesn't matter what their party wants. You're their constituent. They work for you. And let them know you want them to work for you.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely, Nephi.
Do you want to take over?
Yeah. So something.
I'll thank Spartan Defense. So our biggest sponsor for our show is this man and his wife. The reason that we have this amazing studio and these microphones and this equipment and all of the things that we're doing is because of Spartan Defense. So I want to say shout out to Spartan Defense for being our biggest supporter and for being my business partners in the Second Syndicate. We couldn't do this if we didn't have each other. And that brings me back to something you said earlier about bringing the right people into your life and being open about being a gun owner. We don't have to be all the same. I have made some of the best relationships, and I've met some of the best people ever that show up for me and support me in ways that I never thought that people would or could. And it's really taught me the importance of why we fight so hard, because I tell my students every day, this is not only about guns. It's about learning to love yourself enough to stand up for yourself and use your voice and do everything you can to protect yourself. And I am creating that when we're doing this, and we're creating that when we're talking to people. So shout out to Spartan Defense, bruh.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, where can you donate?
So as far as donations concerned, we have the Give, Send, Go. We also have now on the Spartan Defense website, anything you purchase, you have the opportunity to round up to the nearest dollar to donate to the Second Syndicate, or give additional donations if you so need to or feel that you want to. So yeah, we have that set up on SpartanDefense.com now.
Awesome. So I just want to say, Nephi, before we wrap up, first of all, thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, you're a
to join
busy
us. We
man
really
with all the
appreciate
states you
it.
cover, brother. Thank you for taking this time to come talk to us.
And
It's a
for the
pleasure.
fight, I know you're always everywhere. Every time I talk to you, you're on the road here, you're on the road there. I met your lovely wife at the NSSF SHOT Show. And
Shot show.
that lady must be built out of patience and sugar, because I know you're traveling a lot. So shout out to her for supporting you and holding you up. Good women are hard to find. So
And speaking of that, shout out to you for all the time you
I
donate to
do?
this organization, all the time you donate to the 2A fight, not getting paid to do it. You're awesome.
send me money.
I mean, I literally met her at the Capitol arguing with a left-wing anti-gun Democrat.
It was the Predator.
the Predator.
It was your girl Epps.
Miss Epps, who's no longer in office, thank God. We got her out of office.
Got
so
rid of
that's
that hoe.
great. I don't know if her
So-
replacement's much better, but I'm glad she's gone.
Honestly, I don't think there was anywhere you could go but up from that
That's
gutter
true.
trash.
Yes. Oh,
Shout
dear.
out to you, Epps. Hope it's well.
Oh, God.
So yeah, tell folks, Nephi, where they can find your podcast. I think it's called Your Mountain, and how to follow your work with the NSSF.
Well, I appreciate that. So that's we're representing NSSF here today. But if you're interested in hearing some geeky stuff about outdoor policy and how that affects you if you hunt, then look at the Your Mountain podcast. Check it out. Any place you can find a podcast. And in terms of NSSF, go to nssf.org. And so we've got a big web presence. And please feel free to, like, if there's something with our logo on it, informational materials, please share it.
Yeah, we added that to the
Tweet it, share it. We're not perfect, but we're trying really hard to do good work and then give people bullets for the battle. And so we'll keep trying to do that. Please check us out. And I'll tell you what you can do to help us. Go buy a gun.
Yeah,
You
at
know?
Spartan
100%.
Defense.
Support your NSSF member stores.
Spartan
Absolutely.
Defense.
Absolutely.
We ship nationwide.
Oh, dear God.
Use the code Roundup to donate to the Second Syndicate. Right
Emily
on.
just donated another super chat. Thank you, Emily, so much.
Emily,
Well,
you're awesome. Thank
you
you
are
so
awesome.
much, hon.
Nephi, we appreciate the time we've had today with you again, and we know you're a very busy man. So God bless you, sir, and we'll be in touch here soon, brother. You have
Before
a
you
Thank
go,
you very much.
we want to know what is your
Yeah.
favorite EDC. We want to know what is your holy grail gun, and give us a quote to leave the people with to remember you by.
all right. I'm going to judge you on these questions.
So my favorite EDC, the most common or favorite?
Your favorite EDC.
Not the
Man,
heat
that's
cannon that we have.
We
hiding
do
in
have the heat
background
cannon.
here. Yeah, it's kind of
Right.
hiding.
to tell you the truth, I carry I carry 365 all the time.
Everybody is.
365,
Man.
and I'm like,
Are
and
you
I'm
going
really,
macro XL? What's your choice?
I'm one of the originals.
Oh,
Like, I'm so
365
angry.
standard.
Yeah, one of the guys,
Gangsta.
like there's a very famous dude who works with that company, who I went to one of his classes. He's a really good friend of mine, who I'm gonna leave his name out, so it doesn't sound like I'm name dropping. But man, the first day I saw him, he had one of those, and he had the slide milled,
Yeah.
and he had a dot on that thing. I was so mad because I was like, "You got to be kidding me!" So I've got this one, right? And then you're telling me, they're improving it. And the reason I like that gun so much is because it's so small. Like, I literally carry that gun all the time. T-shirts, suits, appendix all the time. And
He's an
nobody,
appendix guy. All right.
yeah, and nobody knows. That's, why I'm a appendix guy? Because, like, I know dudes
Because
who, for a living,
you're thin. You're not big like me. That's why.
I know dudes, all the most dangerous men in the world that I know.
Yeah.
All carry appendix.
Like,
carry an
they
appendix.
all carry appendix. And so I'm like, well, man, if it works for some guy who, like, actually
makes
is
sense.
like, I'm not that guy, but that guy is that guy. And so anyway, yeah, I like that gun. So the Holy Grail, man, the Holy Grail is really
No
tough. 'cause
price
I've-
matters.
No price
Whatever you
matters.
want.
price
no
matters.
category
There's no
matters. It
there's
could
no
be
limits.
rifle, pistol, shotgun. Doesn't matter.
Full auto. What are you
You're-
choosing?
What's it gonna be?
I wouldn't mind having a 50 cal,
Okay.
like an M2, just because the other stuff, like, I really,
The
I'm,
Madusi?
might as well. I mean, you said I could, as soon as
Might
you
as
said I could
well,
have a machine gun, because I really like long range rifles, and I have some really good ones from companies that I love. I love the guys at Gunworks, And so like, and I love good handguns. Staccato makes some beautiful stuff.
They
And
do.
like,
We sell a lot
you
of
know,
Staccato.
man, really nice 2011s. I love. And then,
Spartan
bolt
Defense.
guns that can bolt guns that make it stupid easy to shoot at incredible distances. I love.
Like
And
that,
so,
like my little
yeah,
Accuracy International peeking out back there.
yep. And I love ARs, but I have a couple, like there's a company called Wyoming Arms that makes these. It was making like some really high end, custom gas guns. I love those.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm lucky because I work in the industry, and my wife, as you've mentioned, is very patient. And if I really like a gun, she'll let me work it off. So she'll let me go find them. So I'm a big fan of guns. And I also, though, so I just thought of this, and this is what I should have said. I just got from a pre D-Day M1 Garand.
Oh, nice.
Oh man,
And so,
that's dope.
oh yeah, it's awesome. And
service
so
rifle, nice.
maybe I need like a pre D-Day 1911 too, to like add to that
You
collection.
should find it.
That'd be awesome.
So for me, like when it comes to 1911s, my holy grail, Singer Sewing Machine 1911, the Singer
Oh, yeah.
1911s that were made by the sewing machine company back during the war.
Yeah,
One
just
of those.
super cool. I love everything about the firearms industry, the people involved in it. Nothing is more American than a rifle.
Yes, sir.
Just
God
like,
bless it.
like Cuba has cigars and France has wines, the rifle is ours. It's uniquely American.
Yes,
We
sir.
make the best in the world. We always have. And so it's something we should be very proud of.
I think
God
that's
bless you,
a quote
That's awesome.
to
Yeah, that's a
to
quote right
leave
there.
off of, that there's
100%.
nothing more American than a rifle. I love that.
We love it.
You're
Well,
just
Nephi,
dropping all kinds of
you are,
quotes
man.
and ideas on us today, aren't you?
Well, I'm trying.
Well, to
My
our
best.
viewers, we appreciate you joining us tonight. This just isn't a show. Like we say to you guys, we are on the front line out here. We do go down to the Capitol. We do fight. We do help coordinate lobbying efforts and recall efforts and ballot initiatives. We also work directly with the Colorado Federal Firearms Licensee Association. Teddy is the vice president of that. I am the secretary of that. I've actually seen many meetings that are in negotiations, and Nephi's in there, and he's grilling these people and he's giving them hell and he's asking and saying really pertinent things. So he's in there in the fight with us.
He's the
And-
common sense in the room.
I actually, just on a side note, I was in one of those meetings not too long ago, a couple months back, when we were talking about the new permitting process for FFLs, and you were making such good points to these people that they were like, well, I don't know. Well, we never thought of that. And you're like, well, how are you going to make laws and you haven't even considered A, B, C, D, E, and F? And I was like, tell them, Nephi.
They're still working on it. They're like, it's a lot of education to be done over there.
Well, I don't think that they understand when they're making these laws that they're making laws based off of misinformation, stuff that's
They're
coming
making
from
laws
every
based off
town.
emotion.
Oh, well, not only based on emotion, but lies. They're literally
Yeah.
basing these things off of lies, and they're allowing big people like Bloomberg and every town to write these laws
think
and
one of the
bills and
biggest-
push them down people's throats.
I think one of the biggest gasps I heard this legislative session in the Capitol building was our guest last week, Royaball. Sheriff Royaball was in there, and they asked him straight up, were the guns that were used in the Club Q shooting obtained legally? And his answer was no. To which they were dumbfounded, and an audible gasp was heard in the
Yeah.
room.
But it went like
And
this.
It went right over their head. There was like
Yeah.
a brief recess. They had to like reset. It was an
Yeah.
interesting time because they were expecting a different answer. So yeah, they don't fight
Yep.
with the facts. They fight with emotion.
And shout
People
out
who
to him.
legally, this is a guarantee. Everybody who, like, if they're watching your podcast right now, none of these people are a problem.
No.
Like this
preaching
idea
to the
that,
choir.
gun owners like make the world dangerous. Nope. Anybody who legally can, if you can walk into a firearm store, you can, and like, there's class of individuals. We've all agreed.
The person
No.
that comes in the firearm store is not the one you need to worry about.
For
None
real.
of them are.
It's the one that drives
And that's,
the stolen call through it.
yep. And they can't wrap their head around that.
No, sir.
Because that doesn't work for them, because that doesn't ban any guns, because Guns are already banned. All guns for all the like the groups that are the problem groups.
And the
They
acts
can't
that they're
buy any of
committing
them.
are already illegal.
Already illegal. And so that's not popular though, right? They don't want to hear that because that's not politically powerful. And that's what they're really after. It's really about power.
Oh, absolutely is. There's nothing about safety in any of these laws that they're passing. There's nothing about education or enrichment or knowledge. It's all about fear. It's all about restriction. It's all about taxing and taking and forcing people to be controlled with fear mongering and lies and trauma. And I don't think people really consider how important trauma is to this, because that's why you hear all the stuff on the news, is to emotionally break people, to convince them to give their rights up, because they can't take them. We have to give it away. And by having these types of politicians that you're allowing to walk in these positions of power that don't care about you, you're allowing that to happen.
Well, Nephi, thank you for coming on tonight, brother. It's about that time, so we really do appreciate you, man. We'll be in touch here soon, and we'd love to have you on again in the future, man. You're an awesome guest. I think we covered a lot about the 2A today and gave some people some hope as well as some caution. So thank you again, Nephi, for your time.
Thank you guys
Nephi.
for everything. See you later. Have a good night.
Have a good night.